For the underdogs, I'm an underdog. I've been through it all, I could never fall. You know I stand tall, I be on the road when I'm speaking through the mic. What's good, you guys? Welcome back to For the Underdogs podcast. I hope everybody out there has been well. It's been a long time since kind of recorded anything on this platform, at least, and so but things come to mind, and I feel like I want to give them to the space to be received, and so that's what I'm doing here. Like I said, I hope everyone is doing well, and yeah, here's a message. So I've been reading this book every time I get in the sauna every morning, and it's called The Treasure of a Man by Richard Simmons. A good friend of mine, Ben Jones, who I played with in Tennessee, actually sent me this book and had told me that I should check it out and read it. And so that's what I'm doing. And it's been really enlightening from a standpoint of just kind of thought-provoking topics and things like that. So there was this portion of the book that talked about back in, I believe, 2008, where the market had crashed and how a lot of people that, and especially they're speaking in terms of men, had dealt with depression and, you know, anxiety, and there was a lot of suicidal things going on around that time, based on the significance of what happened during the market crash. There was just a ton of uncertainty going on and a lack of security post the market crashing, as people kind of began to rebuild their lives, given what they lost or what they didn't have anymore. And so it sparked my mind, of course, and it got me thinking about us as people and how I think everything that we go through internally from a mental standpoint is rooted in our need for security and significance. So I'll elaborate on that more. So when we as men, and I'm sure women deal with this as well, so I want to make this inclusive to both, but in terms of my experience in life, I'm speaking on my experience. So when we as men are going through a transition, that be it a career change, a promotion, a demotion, I've been demoted, I've been, let go and things like that, etc. Things feel shaky, to say the least. That feeling that we get that sets in, that a lot of us men try to suppress, I think it's actually fear, but I think it's our mind asking us about our significance in that point in time and also our security in that point in time. What is significance? So the definition of significance and what I chalked it up to be, I put it in my own words, but significance is the belief that what you're doing in life or in this moment makes a lasting difference. Another word for significance is importance. So as men, a lot of us put the pressure on ourselves to provide, protect, or be a problem solver. And I think, I know everyone has their take on that, but that's kind of wired into us biologically, even psychologically. Growing up as a young kid, a young boy, you're typically taught that when you get older, your job is to be a provider, be a protector, and kind of lean into those roles if you're a father or just a man in general. And so socially, that's just become what it is. So when you feel challenged in doing that or being able to accomplish that, you start to question your significance and also your security in the role that you play. So in a time where we're all so focused on gaining more revenue, more assets, more partnerships, a better position at our company, whatever it is, I feel like we hear so often that, people realize when you get to that point and you've had all those things that I just mentioned, there's always something that's still missing, or you feel maybe empty, or like you're still lacking something from an internal standpoint. I think a lot of people may say sometimes that's spiritually, you've done all these things, but you let go of your connection spiritually to whatever you believe in terms of a higher power. But, you have the security. You're just not fulfilled from an internal significant or importance role. I feel like that is exactly what it is. So I guess the question that really hit me while I was in the sauna is, how exactly do we determine our significance, or how do we gain our significance in our lives? Because you can't purchase it. You can't, you can't go to the store and purchase significance, or you can't go to the store and purchase importance. It's just not on the shelves. So you got to really kind of figure out where to gain it from. And I will say, like, we all have external significance or importance, like in terms of if you're a parent, you know that your kids need you. Like, you're significant to your kids because they need you. They depend on you to, protect and provide and things like that as parents. I would say, the workplace is kind of tricky because I've been in the business of, like, if you can't get it done, we'll find someone else to do it. And so I wouldn't say that they technically need you at work, because what I've noticed is the job keeps going regardless. But there are, certain situations where, when you are employed by a certain company or whatever, your job is dependent, or that company is dependent upon you of doing your job. So there's some sort of significance or importance there. But we do have these external significant factors. I just don't feel like some of them really hit home in terms of what I'm trying to get with the point. I don't feel like all of those give you the internal gratification, I guess is the right word, outside of like your kids. Like that I think knowing that you get to provide and you have the ability to protect and all of those things with your kids is like one of the biggest blessings. But let's talk about actual internal factors that build our significance. And I felt this one the absolute most in terms of what it is. And it's the standards we measure ourselves against. I say that again. It's the standards we measure ourselves against. So, for example, I'm sure people can relate to this in their field, but given my experience when I played in the NFL and when I came into the NFL as a rookie, I looked at guys who were having the most success in my position, and I said, okay, this is what I want to do, or this is what I want to be. And when I get to that point, I'll be happy, or I'll be fulfilled, right? But when I didn't get there to that exact level, I felt less significant than what I should have. Really, when I look at it now in the grand scheme of things, like, you were still a part of the 1%, of guys that make it to the NFL, but that didn't give me the feeling that I was looking for. I think it was like this eye-opening experience in terms of like, okay, my whole life I've been chasing this goal, and you go into something wanting to be the best, and when you're not the best, at least amongst your peers within the locker room and within the NFL, it's like, oh, I'm not one of those, and so I'm less significant. Like I'm not able to be recognized as one of the better guys at my position, or maybe I haven't achieved the accolades. And for people that are that are not in the NFL, it's in your company, maybe you want to be the boss, or you want to be the CEO, the COO, whatever the label is that you want, but you're not there. But you've been putting in the work, right? You've been doing everything that you can do to be at that position, but you're not getting recognized. You start to get this like chink in your armor of like, well, maybe I'm less significant. That's what I was experiencing within the NFL. And like I said, it shook me because, they say football is the best teacher in life. That's something that you'll always hear if you're around the game. But when you think that you'll be happy when you get to a certain point, it doesn't all add up, and it's an eye-opening experience. Like I said, it's like when you're a kid and you find out the tooth fairy isn't real or something like that. It's like it's just an eye-opening experience that's hard to describe, but it changes you in terms of internally what really matters. Like I said, I came into the league and I thought, okay, when I get to this point, I'll be happy. Or when I get recognized amongst these certain guys, I'll be happy. And then I also saw guys that were at that point or being recognized amongst, the best of the best, and they were miserable. And so at the time, it didn't really hit me, but it was all internal in terms of, how can you be at this peak, the pinnacle of the top 1% of guys in the NFL, but be miserable from a personal standpoint? It's an internal battle, if that makes sense. And so it's tough. It's tough for sure, but I would say, yeah, that one hit me the most. Like, the standards we measure ourselves against play a huge role in kind of how we view our significance. Another one that I think is really important is, like, we all have these internal scoreboards that get shaped, like mine was through football. They get shaped through our upbringing or whatever we believe to be valuable given our life experiences. So, good example, if your scoreboard says success equals finances, then your significance is actually based off of whether or not your income is enough or not. If you're making enough money year to year or month to month or week to week, if your scoreboard says, okay, when I make this amount of money and you don't make that money, you're directly affecting how you view yourself and the significance that you have. Another example is if, your scoreboard says success means loyalty, then your relationships and the people you interact with and how you deal with them on a day-to-day basis is directly correlated to whether or not you feel significant. If you're able to be loyal and you're being truthful and all of those things, then that means that your significance is at an all-time high because you're actually going about those actions and achieving those actions on a day-to-day. So it becomes much more attainable because you can control that. I think the finance piece is hard, but a lot of us fall into that of like, when I make this, then I'll be this, and then we don't make it. It becomes this internal tug of war of like, am I who I say I am, or is really the finances dictating how I view myself? I think the last one that really kind of popped into my head is the alignment with who we are and what we do. So when we're disconnected from who we are at our core and we're out of place with, what we really want to be doing, or, where we feel like we should be at, like that's the first way that our significance doesn't feel validated, right? So if you're not able to truly be in the space that you want to be in, and you feel like you're having to suppress yourself, I would say that the alignment to who you are and what you do, if it's not what you actually want to be doing, you're not going to feel that feeling of significance, right? The flip side of all of this is security. And I won't spend a ton of time on it, but what does security mean? Being secure means to be safe, means to be fastened or attached, not become loose or lost. So as men, I can say we very rarely feel safe enough to relax or be vulnerable, right? Like I think that's very clear. And I don't know how many times I've had a conversation with a friend or a family member that's a male, even, a woman family member as well. And you can just see right through the facade of what they're really experiencing on the inside. I think paying attention to people's emotions and their eyes and the way they say certain things is it's a blessing, but it's also a curse, because you feel like sometimes, does this person trust me enough to tell me exactly what they're dealing with, or are they just trying to pull a fast one on me? I think anytime that I do experience that interaction, there's times where I feel like it's my job to break the barrier down and say like, are you sure everything's good? Or kind of just, ask the right questions in terms of creating the conversation to allow people to open up. But also, you have to pick and choose when to do that, because some people may not be ready in terms of where they're at mentally to open up to you. And so it takes a close relationship that's built on, I think, loyalty and trust to be able to do that correctly. But it's something that I experience all the time. I don't really feel like I need to get into how we build security. I think the one word that stands out to me is authenticity, and I've spoken on that before. Be who you say you are. Don't minimize who you are, and I feel like you'll always feel secure in who you are. You'll always feel that security if you've authentically been yourself and presented yourself as who you are. I feel like you won't have an issue with that. But the biggest trick is not falling into the trap. And the trap is you gain significance without security, or you gain security without significance. I feel like, I don't know, this is just my take. I feel like gaining security without significance is almost worse than gaining significance. No, I feel like gaining, that's tough. I feel like gaining security without significance is harder than or more detrimental than gaining significance without security. So we have to be able to find a happy medium in where we feel like we're both of those things are being prioritized, and that may take saying no to some things or passing up on opportunities if it doesn't align with you. I've said this story before, but my last year in the NFL did not have to be my last year in the NFL. I was in a position where came off of an injury, and I had the opportunity to go sign back with the Buffalo Bills at the time, and internally, I think I was going through a significance battle, because while the security was there, right, the financial security, the security of knowing, okay, I'm comfortable with going to play football again, like my career is not going to end, the security of knowing the offense and knowing what I'm walking into with the building and the people there, that's what's comfortable, right? Like that would have been easy for me to say, yeah, let's go do it again. Let's go sign it and play and give it another shot. But I wasn't necessarily being provided the significance internally, if that makes sense. Like I was already in the mindset of, I don't know if I want to keep playing because I wasn't growing in the direction that I wanted to. I felt like I was hindering myself by doing what was comfortable. And so, when you think about saying no to an opportunity, like a lot of people would say, well, you turned down another shot at playing in the NFL. Why would you do that? And it's because my significance at that point in my life, and even now at this point in my life, my significance is much more important than any opportunity that could be presented. And so when I look at things from, a bird's eye view, or I take a step back and I look at what's being presented to me on a day-to-day basis, I say, does this provide me the significance that I want? Like, is this going to further me into the direction that I want to go in? And does this also, give me the security that I want? I think if you can, kind of imagine them being in the palms of your hand and weighing each one, like, I just don't want to be in a position where one is tipping and the other one is lacking. And so I look at a lot of things from that aspect, and I do believe that if you are able to, I don't know that they'll always be even, but if you're able to kind of have them on the same playing field, then at least you can kind of, rest easy knowing that you are authentically moving in the right direction. So that was just on my mind. Like I said, I know it's been a while since recording something on this platform, but I'll always give this platform space to breathe. And then when I do feel like I have something meaningful to say, I'll always drop it here. So I appreciate you guys tuning in to this episode of For the Underdogs podcast, and I'll speak to you soon. For the underdogs, I'm an underdog. I've been through it all. I could never fall. I stand tall. I be on the road when I'm speaking through the mic. God protect my soul.